Hello and welcome back to my 30-day world building challenge. We are on day 5, 2 days late. It's going to be the last video I do today because tomorrow I'm getting a colonoscopy and endoscopy, and I have to start drinking my nightmare fuel very soon to prepare for that. I also, if I am delirious and have no energy, it's because all I've had today is broth. That is broth, not pee. I'm sorry I put that on camera. I'll probably edit it out. All right. Day 5 of our world building challenge. What event in your world altered its history? Now, there are a whole bunch of world altering events that have happened throughout this entire world that I have built. If we were on the continent of Avalonia, we would be talking about the various events that have led us to the 4th age of Avalonia. But we're talking about Arjaat, and Arjaat is only in the 2nd age because they don't recognize all the nonsense that happens over on Avalonia. Who cares about that? It's ridiculous. It's all the gods' playthings. So for Arjaat, there are probably like 2 major world-altering events, right? There is, of course, the founding of Arjaat. Dominique Arjaat left Avalonia and founded this new city. The city of Arjaat is more than just its founding, right? There is, of course, the world-altering event of GodsEnd, which I've mentioned in a couple of videos now, but we'll talk about specifically. So there's a whole bunch of world history that I am not going to delve deep into here. Suffice it to say, in the 1st age of the world, the gods inhabited the material plane. They held courts there. The elven gods banded together, human gods, goblin gods, orcish gods, all sorts. But as we know, in the great wheel cosmology of the outer planes, right, there are the evil planes. And while in the last video I said there are no inherently evil races, there are inherently evil gods and monsters. So the gods were in the material plane for the entire 1st age. They were fighting many proxy wars. They would enlist people and fight amongst each other and all those sorts of terrible things that you might imagine very hands-on gods to do. At the end of the 1st age, what becomes known as God's End, the gods themselves go to war and billions die in a matter of minutes as God clashes against God. God's End comes to its end as the Knights of Axiom, these constructs of concepts, space, time, will, those sorts of things, intervene in the material plane, ejecting the gods into the outer planes, blocking them from being able to return. So what we see in Arjaat is their religious structure changes. The Faerunian pantheon that envelops the rest of the world is no longer the dominant pantheon anywhere. They cannot re-enter the material plane. That does change eventually, but that's for another story, another time. And so instead, Arjaat begins to worship more conceptual things, ideals rather than gods themselves. And these ideals sort of manifest and take power. That isn't to say that the Faerunian pantheon is outlawed in Arjaat. For example, in Little Bohemia, where many Dragonborn live, there are temples to Bahamut. We see other parts of the Faerunian pantheon are sort of weaved in throughout that. But God's End changed everything in the world. It is the end of the 1st age when this happens, and it changed Arjaat, of course, right? We see this much different religious experience coming out of Arjaat after the 1st age, where it is ideals that you live up to. These ideals aren't necessarily good and evil. They aren't representative of the outer planes. It is much more striving to be better. And so we see a real shift. And even when the Faerunian pantheon can re-enter the material plane, the gods, this new system in Arjaat stays. And it is the predominant religious order that works throughout the city. And so God's End changed everything, but really helped shape how Arjaat works and the religions that sort of operate predominantly there. So by contrast, in Avalonia, what we saw in what was their 2nd age, an age of silence, where clerics and paladins essentially didn't exist as there was no ability to connect to the outer planes and get divine power, Arjaat changed sort of the definition of divine itself and manifested these new deities into existence. So that's day 5, world-altering event. tomorrow, day 6, is how prevalent magic is in the world. And we'll get into sort of the role that magic plays in Arjaat and how important it is. But I'm really enjoying making these videos. I hope you are enjoying watching them. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to hang out with me in my city of Arjaat. I will see you all tomorrow.